Good morning. My name is Dr. Dan Cassino. I'm an assistant professor of political science at Fairleigh-Dickinson University and a survey analyst for the Public Mind poll. We're talking today about the Delaware Senate race. In the top line numbers in the Delaware Senate race, we see that Christine O'Donnell is now trailing her Democratic opponent, Chris Coons, by 21 points in a margin of 57 to 36. Now, we've seen this election get a lot of attention from national Democrats, and we expect that that's going to continue going into the final weekend before the election, not because national Democrats think they have a race to lose here, but rather because national Democrats believe largely that they're going to lose a lot of seats, and so they want to concentrate on the one that they certainly think that they're going to win. Now, while Christine O'Donnell is farther behind than she was in the last poll we ran, earlier in the month she was trailing Chris Coons by 17 points, her campaign actually is largely on the right track. Earlier this month, we said that the biggest challenge facing the O'Donnell campaign was her ability to mobilize her natural constituency, to mobilize voters who were supporters of the Tea Party, to mobilize voters who were pro-gun, pro-life on abortion, conservative voters, and voters in the downstate counties outside of Newcastle County. And to a large extent, she has actually done that. Among pro-life voters, Christine O'Donnell is now running ahead 56-37. Among individuals who are pro-gun ownership rather than pro-gun control, she's running ahead 55-36. And most importantly, among people who actually say they support the Tea Party, she is now getting 82% of the vote. Earlier in the month, she was only running in the mid-70s among that group. She's also improved her numbers among Republicans. Earlier in the month, she was running in the mid to high 60s among Republicans. She's now running in the high 70s among Republicans. So she's really firmed up her base in the last couple weeks of the election. However, this firming up the base has come to some extent at a cost to her among independent voters. We've seen that the voters in Delaware have become increasingly polarized about Christine O'Donnell. Christine O'Donnell's favorability numbers in the last 3 weeks have increased. Her favorability numbers are up by about 4%, but her unfavorability numbers are up by 6%. And even that figure of unfavorable numbers increasing by 6% actually hides a lot of what is going on. Her unfavorability numbers include people who describe themselves as having both unfavorable and very unfavorable views of Christine O'Donnell. And we've seen that right now she has a very unfavorable number of 44%. And that figure is up significantly from the last time we ran numbers in Delaware 3 weeks ago. Now, what that's telling us is that we're seeing seeing the people who are just coming into the election, the people who just started paying attention between the beginning of the month and now, are largely coming out in favor of Chris Coons. So this polarization has continued. We actually have also seen the polarization on the other side. Chris Coons' unfavorability numbers are also up. Chris Coons' unfavorability numbers earlier in this month were at 27%. His unfavorability numbers are now up to 36%. His favorability numbers have stayed roughly where they were before, but there's more voters who have an unfavorable view of him. We also polled the hypothetical matchup if it was Mike Castle running against Chris Coons. And if Mike Castle were running, our numbers show that the race would be going almost exactly the opposite direction. If Mike Castle were running this election, he would be up by about 21 points. We're estimating 54 to 33 in favor of Mike Castle if he were running this election. Now, a lot of people have taken all these figures to mean that Christine O'Donnell is somehow an unqualified candidate, that she couldn't win office. And that just doesn't seem to be the case. If we were to take her support among Tea Party supporters, among pro-gun voters, among pro-life voters, and transpose them to many other states, especially in the South or the Midwest, she would actually be winning. If Christine O'Donnell were running up these numbers in Texas and Virginia and South Carolina, she would be well ahead of a generic Democratic opponent. Now, to some extent, it seems like we might be able to stop paying attention to this race. Christine O'Donnell down by 21 points. However, there's still a lot of interesting things that are going on here. First off, whenever we see numbers like this, we see a margin this big, and the margins this big are very, very rare in contested elections. This actually has an effect on voter turnout. And certainly the Democratic Party can't afford to fall asleep at the wheel here now, because this is going to have an effect on especially moderate Democrats who may or may not turn out to vote. If Democrats look at this race and say, well, the Senate race isn't really in jeopardy, the House race isn't in jeopardy, the Attorney General race isn't in jeopardy, I can stay home. This could have a devastating effect on the races down ballot, especially the race for treasurer and the tightly contested races for the State House and the State Senate, especially those in the suburbs of Wilmington. Also, I think this race tells us quite a bit what's going on in the Tea Party nationwide. Tea Party candidates don't seem to be a game changer for Republicans in a general election. While they do seem to be having a greater impact on the primary election, we're seeing nationwide that in states where Republican candidates do well, Tea Party candidates are also doing well. But in states like Delaware, where Republican candidates have traditionally not done so well, being affiliated with the Tea Party does not seem to be having any additional impact. So it just doesn't seem to be a game changer for the Republicans in the general election.